Hello, welcome to the Methods Podcast. My name is Sebastian Chen, and I'm joined with my co-host, Bowen Saylor, and we are thrilled to have the privilege today of speaking with Mr. Richard Blink. Mr. Richard Blink has some very interesting facts about him. One of them being that he has the largest collection of pinballs and jukeboxes in Central America. He has trained over 10,000 bilingual telemarketers in over 2 decades. He moved to Costa Rica at the age of 27 and was inducted into the Business Hall of Fame in 2023 at Abington Senior High School in North Pennsylvania. Is there anything you'd like to add or anything that I missed?
Just the fact that I'm very happy to be here, gentlemen. I can't thank you enough. This is going to be great today.
Yeah, very excited. Yeah. So let's just get right into it and, into the questions. So you want to talk about your journey to success. So could you take us back to your early days of your career? What were some pivotal moments or decisions you had to make along your path to success, and how did you navigate those challenges?
Well, I think that's a great question, and you kind of gave a hint in the beginning. The fact that I was inducted into the 2023 Hall of Fame at Abington Senior High School means that the circle was complete. Follow me here, gentlemen. My journey began back in 1991 when I graduated. I chose to be a Spanish major. Unlike the pressure that I had from my parents to follow in economics and finance, Harvard Law, Columbia Business School, Washington and Lee University, guys, I didn't have the maturity or the grades for that. But I had the passion for Spanish. I got a college recommendation letter from the principal of Abington, the late Norman Schmidt, and my dedicated Spanish teacher, Esperanza Galshak. They offset my grades, got me in the University of Arizona, and the rest is history. I loved it, and I was the only one out of my friends that could speak Spanish. And so post-grad, I worked for Corona Beer. During college, I interned for Telemundo. And in August of 2000, I had a 1 in a million opportunity to move to Costa Rica to work at my friend's call center. And the barn door was open. That horse was long gone. And I got past my parents' guilt. So the return on investment of my education was phenomenal. I was with bilingual agents, learning the industry from the inside out, not at sea level, but with the people. And so in my mid-30s, I had the capital, the impulse control, and the experience to throw my hat in the ring. Started with 1 seat. Now we're at 150 and celebrating our 16th year. And so the thing is, gentlemen, it builds on momentum. It's about being true to yourself, checkpoints in your career to make sure that there's positive reinforcement. And if you get that sort of energy and that sort of feeling that you're doing something right, then by all means, you should drink life and you should go for it. And maybe your stars will be aligned like mine was. And the next thing you know, you're on the Methods Podcast telling amazing tales to your awesome audience. And that's how things go, gentlemen. A lot of the stories are told by those that are bold and are willing to take the chance. And so I'm not telling you to pet stray dogs and jump off of cliffs. But then again, if you have a passion towards life, you'll never forgive yourself if you don't at least take a chance.
Yeah, absolutely. And, we know a lot of people that they're maybe unsure with what they want to do. And even if they do know what to do, they don't know where to go with their passion or their ambitions, their thoughts. And it definitely helps to, have somebody in your life to guide you with those things.
I do have a question I'd like to touch on. So beginning with your college experiences, you obviously didn't want to follow the path of your parents and people before you. Making that decision to go study Spanish and not follow the path that was already set out for you, what were some of the biggest things that you learned and took away from college? And it could be in the classroom, out of the classroom, things that helped you become successful and things you might even still use today.
Fantastic question. The first thing is maturity. I had to be exceptionally realistic of what my expectations were. Do I want to live in an invisible box and just crunch numbers all day long? Am I capable of doing that? Would I be happy enough to want to live a true life or just punch in and punch out? Sometimes you need to be selfish. I'm not telling you to rob banks, but you also have to think about this forced march that you're about to put yourself on. And so I had to make my case. And so what was my case? Well, my great grandparents came to the United States at the turn of the 20th century. They came from Eastern Europe. They had to learn English. They were moved to New York, went through Ellis Island, was in the garment industry. They were nomads. They took a chance. And I have that in me. I have that blood. And you can't say that great grandpa's words weren't gospel. We still talk about them to this day. So allow me to be bold and brave and make a name for ourselves. If it doesn't work out, I can always come home. There's always a place for me there. But I don't want that. I want to see how high I can fly and how far I can go. And so was it constantly me telling them this argument? No. It was about when I was in public and I was speaking Spanish, and it just wasn't, a funny bar trick or something where it's a cocktail joke. I mean, I was really involved in this thing. And the fact that they couldn't relate to it, it doesn't mean that I wasn't progressing in it. We're just talking about two different animals here. And so I had to be very secure in the investment that I was making in myself. But I tell you what, my man, I'm not the kind of guy that can go to class, study it, rip it out, and retain it. Once again, I needed that consistent stimulation. And so by living in Tucson, Arizona, once I left the classroom, the entire world was my oyster. It's dedicated practice everywhere, from the 7-Eleven and Circle K to the restaurant to all the cool people that you meet around town. I was putting in 3 or 4 extra hours of Spanish a day. So why do you think that I was above and beyond when you're living it? And so I said, if it's like this, where I don't need to plug in, download, or be somewhere on a Wednesday, but my 24/7 is something I could study so I don't forget it and I can only grow from it, like the gym, I said, I'm in heaven. And the fact that most people weren't doing this, I said, once again, I'm the only one that can. By default, I'm the last one standing. They have to choose me. I'm the only one left. And I got style, and I have respect, and I'm open-minded. And don't kid yourself. You want to hear the coolest thing? Post-grad? No. Even during college, when I was working with Telemundo for 2 years, I was doing promotions and public relations. I don't know if you remember these names, but Miguel Quintana was one of the largest and most influential newscasters out of Los Angeles, their largest market in the 90s. And then you had Pedro Sevsek that was out of Miami, and he was doing that huge talk show against Christina from Univision. Now, these individuals would visit us in Tucson, and they would spend time going around the city to meet with their fans and audience. And Jay Cohn was the owner of the Phoenix Tucson offices and was exceptionally generous and extending me an internship for 2 years. And I got to spend time with the most humble, amazing people my entire life, where they were rock stars. And I'm not Latino. So I'm watching these things and I'm learning these things. So to answer your question again, when I was getting into business, my man, I had so much momentum, so much experience. I knew what to say, what to do. It was mine to lose, and I wasn't fumbling any footballs. And so literally it's being way over prepared for the AP class where you finish early, walk out and point at everybody and go, yeah, you're the boss. So, I'm just having fun. And if you feel like this in your career, how could you not have the odds in your advantage? That's the only way I could think about it, gentlemen.
Yeah. And we love to discuss that. Having fun with what you're doing, because really you get so much more done without realizing it when you're just, when it doesn't feel like you're trying to get something done. It feels like you're living your life and enjoying the things that you want to enjoy. And it's not, people say that a lot. At the end of the day, it's not really work, but it's just such a great thing to actually live and not just hear. You mentioned that you come from a family of nomads, and you're not the type to just go into class and retain something so easily. And there are people that are very lucky like that, but for those who don't have that ability, they have to put in a little bit of work, and it takes a certain mindset. How did you develop your mindset earlier in your career, and how did that develop as you progressed?
What an excellent question. I like decompressed stimulation. I like working out in the gym, washing my convertible, pinball marathons. Why? So my mind can wander. It's like the Einstein factor.
Mhm.
People crack the codes usually when they're out of their office. They're by themselves. They're on the train, in the shower, taking long walks. And so for me, I needed to find that sort of balance. And it was important for me to have those sort of visions because I believe in what I see. Follow me here, gentlemen. I work in a call center industry besides this Zoom that we're doing right now, which is great. The majority, if not all of my agents' calls with and to the clients are sight unseen. Now, the scientists, they know that if you lose one or more of your senses, the other ones expand. So you're looking at a controlled environment of a focused group of individuals that are losing 3 of their senses for a dedicated 160 hours a month, right? They're losing their taste, touch, and smell. So their hearing should be expanded, which is what we expect. But what about the vision? Well, I believe in adjectives and descriptive words. You can paint a picture, it just doesn't have to be a script reading print. And so the most amazing thing is the book. It's 10 times better than the movie, especially that old man telling stories by the fire. And so I tapped into that. You asked me a question, I'm giving you an answer. I am more than willing to play pretend and what I see, because that is my power over a phone where I can't see you. Is it selling real estate? Let me picture what your house looks like. We were already talking about how awesome West Palm Beach is and the breakers and Worth Avenue and how beautiful it is where you live, my friends. And so I can see these things. I can picture the future of a company growing or a gatekeeper smiling. And these are things that I need to do because why? You're going to burn out. There are certain things you can do while you're doing your job to enhance the experience. There are certain tell signs people have with spikes and dips on how fast and loud they speak. We always judge answering speed. We use transitional sentences to move things forward. We use tie down questions, gentlemen, to give checkpoints during the call. So there's no open doors when we're trying to lock an appointment or some sort of commitment. We like military alphabet, so emails don't bounce back, and we know how to spell your exotic name properly. These are the soft skills that our grandparents taught us. It's nothing new. It's slicing and dicing, it's manners and turn taking. There's no forced hands, but there's a zig and a zag. And so what you need to do is just capture it, focus on 30 seconds as checkpoints, so you can buy 10 minutes. You were mentioning something earlier about so much intensity in life and things are growing. How about imagining a large pile? And why don't we just start separating the pile, like t-shirts, the pants, the socks? It's too much. You're carrying too much. Stop with too many bags. I like things in smaller segments. It's a 10-minute call. No, it's not. It's 10 1-minute calls, like a boxer. It's got 10 rounds. I mean, come on, give me a break. It's not a half an hour fighting. They break it down by round and minute. And if you're really an ace, by a second. And if you're in the now, not ahead or the past, anxious, depressed, but living in that 30 seconds, you could be the Robin Williams genius, where you're spontaneous. You're like James Bond. You use the one thing that you didn't bring with you to save your life that one time. That was always the clever part of the movie. There's always the 10% wild card. And if you're not willing to have depth and width and have real conversations with people, it's not going to work. You're not going to anchor with them. You won't get to pass the pitch from the gatekeeper. You don't even probably know what a positive escalation is. That's giving the gift of the compliment verbally, and we do it in writing. So when Richard calls back the Methods podcast, your secretary loves me and starts telling me Sebastian's schedule so I can get in there on a Thursday and close the deal. Don't you get the game? You build the pipeline, you marinate it, you slow down, you take your time. And if you do that, gentlemen, your audience will build an enormously large and successful business like I did. It's like bricks in the wall. It's foundation to last the test of time.
Yeah, building those personal relationships with people. You know, we only have so much practice with that. As a student, you kind of are forced to be around people. You have to be social, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're practicing building those lifelong relationships or really practicing showing what you think, what you feel, how you appreciate people. That doesn't always translate in a school setting.
Right. I have one more thing to touch about that, especially with all the technology and everything. It was very insightful to hear about how important soft skills were, like things that your grandparents taught you, you know? I feel like everybody's moving so fast now, and that was something I definitely am gonna, take into account, like doing the easy things, the simple things, caring for the customer and all that stuff.
Come on, I got another $1 million tip for you. The worst thing I hate is small talk. I hate small talk. Why don't you guys do this? Do the due diligence. Look at a LinkedIn profile. Look at a website. Why? So you can custom make a voicemail or an email. So it's not small talk now. You guys are ripping into the pinball machines and the jukeboxes in Philly. Man, I love you guys. I'll be buying you drinks all night. These are my boys. Yeah, but you're not talking about long-term relationships. Man, I just met you. But you came up to me and go, yo, Mr. Pinball. I'm turning my head. You go, Hall of Famer Abington? I go, what? I go, I don't even know your name yet, but we're boys. And you don't think that you're starting off at like a 9.9? I don't need 20 years to be your best friend. You show 2 minutes worth of due diligence and real sincerity. You skip the line. Yeah, but I'm young. I don't care. Yeah, but I never met you face to face. I still don't care. The fact that you were really charming with my gatekeeper, you gave a company name, Spike. You said the name Costa Rica's call center better than she did. And you complimented the daylights out of her, and you told her happy anniversary, 16 years with us. And you asked her if she played pinball. She said, listen, Richard, this all year, I love these guys. Everyone else is trying to squeeze in. They're the first people that were gentlemen. I hook them up first thing tomorrow morning for you, and I give you my blessing. You don't think they're the ones that help you close the deals? Sometimes it's their wife or someone that's been there for 20 years or undercover boss. Maybe the boss is answering the phone. What, are you going to walk over them? Please pay attention. You guys are so smart, but you might need to be outside of the norm, like I was. Yeah. I'm not telling you to go completely off the spectrum, but there is something about following in sync. There's certain times to do it. With public politeness, you need to wait in line, right? There's certain things you need to have for society to grow. But another thing you don't need to do is to settle. If you believe in something, then you put your chest out there and you represent it properly. I didn't say grandpa's thing's good. Sometimes they send a letter. Emails go quicker. But there are certain ways about standing and opening doors and shaking hands and taking the time. And if that's the gift or the trick, I'll take that all day long. It's almost like panning for gold. It's still the same ounce, but you look at the effort. So you almost respect the boxer that goes 15 rounds, even though I love Iron Mike and we loved his first round knockouts. You also have to respect Chuck Wepner that went 15 with Ali back in the day and became Rocky. They're both champs, but one won and one lost. Yeah, but one had serious heart to go the distance against Amazon, HP, Intel, and Oracle. I compete with Jeff Bezos here. He has call center locations here. Thousands of agents here. All the billboards and buses and advertisements, transportation on site, doctor, unit, bells and whistles. He is the bells and whistles. But I'm the only one that has played pinball with every single one of my agents. Does that mean something? Does to me. And if there's a call center Olympics, I got at least one gold. And I think that that's the kind of gold that attracts the sort of people that want their names to be known, that want me to delegate, that are loyal, that have fidelity. It's
Yeah.
very easy that water seeks its own level. It's very easy for that natural filter that happens. So you need to have faith in that. And if you do, the right people will join your team.
Yeah. And speaking of people, another thing we wanted to touch on was mentorship. So earlier we talked about how there are people that have this ambition, but they don't know what to do. They don't have a guiding light. Um, we understand that learning from others is definitely critical in a personal and professional aspect. So have you had any mentors or role models in your career that have significantly influenced your journey? What lessons have you learned from them, and how do you consider them an inspiration?
Well, the first hero I ever met was Bernie Perrant, was the goalie for the Philadelphia Flyers back in the 70s. He came to Old York Road when I was first starting out being a goalie. And I met one of the most humble men in the world, and he was a champion and one of the best goalies in the world. And so I realized at a young age that no matter how high you go, your feet should always be touching the ground. People love you for that because it lets you think that you could do that too, that he's one of you. So I learned that lesson at a young age. And I guess a lot of it because I was not the best in academics besides my high school Spanish teacher. It was more athletics. It was more my hockey coaches that would influence me and push me to certain levels. When I first started hitting the gym, I had friends in high school that had structure and discipline, and I had others that had motivation. And so think about 17 and 18-year-olds that are varsity lettermen that are hitting the gym every day. And we're in our prime stage of growth. And I haven't stopped to this day. I'm still ripping the gym. And so, these are friends that motivated me back in the day that I saw my peers that could follow through on this. And then, when I was in college, did some professors inspire me? I guess a few. It was more the Telemundo because I inspired myself. It was the thing where I put in that extra effort and raised money for Casa de los Niños. And I just had extra time in college. I had very generous parents that paid for college. So I didn't have to get a job.
Yeah.
And so my job was internships and projects through my fraternity and around Tucson so I can get that work experience. So when I go for my first job, they would hire me. And so also mentor. I wanted to be a public speaker. And so you're going to laugh and I'm going to date myself, but that's fine. I felt that Remington Steele and Templeton Peck were excellent influences. Pierce Brosnan was Remington Steele with Stephanie Zimbalist back in the 80s. It was a great detective show. And Templeton Peck was Dirk Benedict, who was also Starbuck from Battlestar Galactica. This is the A-Team. He was smooth. And these people had choice rhetoric. But then I had to go old school. So I decided to study the works of Basil Rathbone, who was the old-time radio Sherlock Holmes from the 30s and 40s. Now, I can't say that I speak Queen's English and I'm not British, but man, I was studying this cat like you have no idea. And all I know is that it really prolonged conversations with me and I was able to ingratiate and learn how to do the dance of speech. And all I know is that you don't need to lie to make friends. All you need to do is show active interest and really be sincere. And if you're colorful within your speech, you can keep people's attention. And I've been able to earn a living doing this. And so my mentors really were my own pencil and paper. I can't say I created that to do that. I used mediums as my mentors for me to do things like recording software, right? right? From tape recorder to what we do today. That's a medium that I use to increase my skills. What about the thesaurus? I didn't create that, but if I have writer's block where I want to take the word help out because it provokes an ego defense, I remove that and put an assist, guide, or lend a hand because it's more diplomatic, strategic, ruins any sort of rabbit hole. Huh? What are you talking about? Instead of saying, excuse me, it's more for my clarification. Gentlemen, these are small swords you fall upon in order to keep that tone positive. Choose your battles wisely. So we've decided in this 3D chess of speech, it's my fault that your dog is barking, that your cell phone is bad, right? That you're going through a tunnel or the mountains. It's my clarification. You don't need to apologize. And so we've seen that these things keep the wind going and the current, so I don't have to row. It's the Wu Wei effect. There's no forced fit. A lot of the time, stars become aligned and things move in your direction. So my suggestion is if you can catch some wind, take it. It's free. And I think you might learn something from it.
That was a lot. That was really great insight. One thing I was curious about is, so I hear you competing against Jeff Bezos, right? You know, he's got agents there where you are and probably other places as well. I'm curious to what exactly you do when you're up against somebody like that. What are some things that you can do that he might not, or how are you going to get ahead of him? And I know you mentioned that with your agents, you played pinball with every single one of them, correct?
That is correct.
That is correct.
What I can do is respect the fact that he's investing in the labor pool. This gentleman puts a lot of training and infrastructure in Costa Rica. It's almost like a model. They're taking a photograph in front of the Eiffel Tower. They didn't build the Eiffel Tower. It was already there. So if Jeff Bezos is producing thousands upon thousands of advanced skill set agents in his training program, I think that's fantastic. Can I compete with him? No. Am I looking to? No, because if I earn 0.1% of this industry, I'm a millionaire. And not saying he would crush me, but why even go there? We've been living comfortably with each other, sharing people that come and go at call centers and not competing. And I even accept many of his ads on my Facebook fan page. It's a nice relationship. It's really not competition. I see it more as a colleague. I'd love to say that I'm at Jeff Bezos's level, but I am at his level in regards to the relationships with the call center agents. That, my friends, I could walk evenly with him because that doesn't cost money. That's just somebody that shows empathy and interest and just adds to somebody's self-reliance and self-confidence. And so any man or woman could do that. And so I think those are the certain common grounds that myself and Mr. Bezos can begin. And if he ever wants to come by and play pinball, it's my pleasure. It would be an honor to entertain him here. Yes.
Yeah. I hadn't thought about it like that. Yeah, that's very true. I mean, you don't need to go head to head with them. You're right. You're definitely right.
It doesn't need
But
to
there
be
are resources, my friends, that I can use. And that's him, as I mentioned before, building a humongous labor pool of trained individuals. Mm-hmm.
great. That's great. So we wanted to talk about how you would define your method. And the name of this podcast is the Methods Podcast. So we want to know about yours. So we have seen a pattern in every successful individual. They have their own method, and you've indicated what yours has been like throughout your journey. What are some things that set you apart? What is your method, your key principles or strategies that you believe have been instrumental to your success?
I'm going to give you a visual. Imagine me as a trunk of a tree. I need roots. I also need branches. I'm a guest in this country. I don't have home court advantage. I might be bilingual and I'm charming, but still, people have advantages here over I. And so what I've needed to do is delegate. I needed to put people in certain positions where it's right bus, right seat, not only thrive, but be satisfied. And so I needed to have that faith in individuals in my IT department and human resources, my accountants, my attorneys, my supervisors, even the soldiers on the phone. As much as an octopus in the kitchen is a very funny image, and you've seen it on a cartoon 1,000 times, and it does make sense, we're not octopuses, and it's even difficult juggling with two hands. And so there's a certain point where you have to let go. Now, there's certain areas of your company that you don't let go, which might mean that there are sacrifices you have to make in order to make that successful. This is a very hands-on job. As much as I'd like to be a remote boss and I could be successful being away and running my company, it's still very much hands-on. Not that I need to babysit people or to catch people surfing the internet. No, it was that core synergy that I always spoke about. It's the sort of thing that people fall in love and get married on at my call center. People celebrate 10 years with me. People tap me on the shoulder and say, "Good morning, boss," when they walk past me in the game room. They don't have to do that. Obviously, touching your boss is inappropriate in some instances, but in mine, I think it's quite appropriate. They didn't cross any boundaries. They're showing comfort levels. And I'm probably the only boss that they do this with. And so it's very easy for me to slice and dice fat and to focus on the important things. And a lot of it is just really taking into consideration that people have lives outside the office and they're not expendable. They're not a number. Maybe giving somebody a second chance, possibly having them put water on their face if they're having a bad day. And that's what's helped me, because if you're starting with a mask in the beginning, then I get to judge your character during chaos, and it's probably very disappointing. So I just want to make sure that we're on a level playing field in the beginning. I don't need for you to kiss my ass that I'm your boss. I got to make sure that I come through for you and pay your salary, benefits, and give you a great work environment, plus the extras. And you're reliable. You show up on time. Why? Man, if you can't master this level, then how are you going to get to the next? And you know, it's funny, you ask these millionaires, and you've asked me and all these questions about your journey and one of the most successful moments. It's usually when you've had your first job as the paper route boy, or the millionaire that worked in the restaurant. He took a lot of pride in cleaning his table or washing that car, or cutting the lawn. Yeah, but you were a kid then, but you have no idea how hard I worked for that $3. And that $3 meant the world to me. And that you can't take away. There's certain things, gentlemen, that are priceless. And are both you going to be successful? Oh, yeah. You want to have tons of bread? Swim in it, fill a bathtub in it, enjoy it, backstroke in it if you want. But one day those gold and jewels will lose their luster. And then you'll wonder what to do with all of your riches. And there are certain people that once they've accomplished all these different goals in life, what's left? And then they start giving back to either their church or certain societies or volunteering time, because that's where they got their fulfillment. It's amazing how it took them to get to a certain level financially or a certain area of life to then find such satisfaction in working for free. Find that balance. You will understand the shortcut of life that's easy for you. Was this simple? No, I'm on my 16th year. And when I first started, I was renting a turnkey station at a blended center. It's almost like dorm room living, right? There's no privacy. But listen, I was able to pay the overhead, the taxes, made a margin, and I could scale accordingly. But was it fun? Was fall year freshman fun in college? Of course it was. It was amazing. And so the beginning of it, when I was scaling, even though it wasn't luxurious, I loved it. I was with my people, eating lunch with them, taking calls in front of them, walking the rows, blessed every day that it was another day. It should have never happened. And so you tell me, I went from renting a station to then renting space and buying used equipment for pennies on the dollar because call centers have rotation. Now, I'm not going to buy used underwear, but I'll definitely buy a used monitor and CPU that's never been used. And you can get it because the import taxes are expensive. So I was able to scale a company through selective purchases. And I did it for probably 30% if you just went downtown and spent money like a drunken sailor. And then after 6 years of building capital and having stability with long-term clients, because now I'm on my 8th year of business, I decided to purchase a building, gut it out, threw a 3rd floor in it. Now it can house 300 people, and I own it. And so this is more of the tortoise, not the hare. This is somebody that looks down so I don't step in holes. And his grandma told me to pay things in cash. Why? Because you don't overextend yourself. You act your wage. You always have a cushion. So you can pay the salaries and the taxes, and you can sleep well at night. And here's the best lesson for you. Because if you're desperate, then you're making bad decisions. And sometimes those decisions might compromise your ethics, values, and morals. And guess what, boys? There's nothing worth that dirty dollar. You'll never be able to respect yourself. And so it's not about how much new business you get. It's about how much business you turn away. I mean, they said it in Wall Street, don't judge me in all the deals I get. Judge me on the ones I didn't get. I'm doing the reverse. I'm letting you know that I'm exceptionally selective, that I'm not going to do a sports book, a casino, stocks, pharmacies, or sweepstakes. I could. I'd be great at it. But I'm in a strict Catholic country. And plus, my mother's watching your podcast, and there's no way I'd be doing those things. And it's a very small country. And I am a guest here. And I married the girl of my dreams here. It wasn't worth the money. I'm a good boy. And those are the sort of things that last the tests of time. And so I want your audience to calm down and slow down. It's going to come, but please do the right thing so you never lose that sort of path.
Yeah. And one of the things you touched on that I think really resonates with me, just because I feel like it's a pattern I've noticed, is you're very much a people person. So you want to build those relationships, take the time to let people know you care. And really, you've made it clear that it's about over delivering. And that doesn't necessarily mean people need to commit their entire life to their work, but over deliver within their relationships with other people, because it seems like that's what really matters based off of your career. That's what you've noticed. Am I right with that?
It's intimidating if someone rolls up in a Lamborghini, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or someone goes to like 10 Super Bowls in a row. I mean,
Yeah.
there's always going to be someone that's going to be taller than you.
Mm-hmm.
And faster than you, and stronger than you, and jumps higher than you. What are you going to do? Well, mine is 44 push-ups, and I'm cool with that. The moment that you let go that weight, you rise. I can't explain that to you. These are the thoughts that you have, my good friends, when you put your head on your pillow. But these are the things that I made peace with myself a long time ago. It happened in 91. Well, I was willing to put those chips down on Spanish. Had to back it up. But I have a luxury trade, but it also lost some of its allure back in the day. I mean, you can't eat so much chocolate, you're going to throw up, right? There's an overdose of pizza. And so for me, what happened was I lost my innocence in this industry. It's the part that bothers me. And I can discuss it with you, and you should really take this into consideration, is attrition. You talk about relationship building. Listen, if no one shows up to Chuck E. Cheese, I have no friends at my birthday party. People can use that leverage against me, but what I've seen is natural attrition. I'll give you the forced attrition, natural attrition. Forced attrition is if you don't come to work, you get stoned at lunch, you're not making your calls, you're not coachable, you're a cancer. You just suck. Okay? So I'm going to follow the labor laws and might replace you. Now, natural attrition, and we could use Jeff Bezos for an example. I'll lose people because of a scheduling conflict. Let's just say the university. You have a better schedule somewhere. That wasn't us. How about if your girlfriend works there? Come on, man. I can't compete against that either. What happens if it's 2 minutes from your home where you can walk there compared to spending, $50 a week in Ubers? You might do that too. And if you're marketable, how about if there's a place that might pay you a couple extra grand a month? The margins aren't there. Take it. I think it's wonderful. But I tell you what, I will never give them the walk of shame or make them cry. You praise in public, you critique in private. And so don't think that I'm just going to walk the rows and start screaming at them like they do in Glengarry Glen Ross when Blake is telling Gene the machine that coffee is for closers. We don't do that thing here. They're very delicate. You're talking about mid-20s. Agents, majority of them live at home. They're starting on their careers or just finishing their college studies. So even though they're not children, this is still a very delicate stage of a career. Job is just over broke. Career doesn't mean to be in the call center industry, but it's you're getting paid $1, but you're getting $1.50 in knowledge. You're still getting your buck, but the 50 cents is in the knowledge, the meetings you sit on, writing business composition letters, figuring out the IT department, or how we handle things here. And so I always try to not work extra hours, or even volunteer my time. But as I was mentioning, when you're making phone calls, doing a positive escalation, military alphabet, things like that, for my clarification, assist, guide, lend a hand, that's power upping. It's still the same time. I'm just putting more cheese on it. Come on. And cheese whiz, because I'm from Philly. And so there's ways to stack. I hate horizontal. I prefer that you can have as much horizontal as you want. The question is the vertical. I mean, you see people that stack plates in restaurants. You can stack open-ended questions. You can make camp at a certain period of a conversation or relationship and wait before moving forward. What's the rush? Make camp. So if your audience can focus and stay in the now and do proper turn taking and give and taking, the next thing you know, you're doing a second half of a podcast and things are just working out. When someone says they don't have 5 minutes, they got plenty of time. The thing is, you need to buy the time. Gentlemen, does this make any sort of sense to you?
Yeah, absolutely.
But I have a secret. You want another secret?
Of course.
But good, because when everyone comes into my call center and they fill out their resume, you love resumes, don't you? They're all fancy dancy with all the bells and whistles, right? And big words and experiences and stuff. Well, that's great. Guess what I would tell both of you to do? Turn that piece of paper over, and I want 3 paragraphs of a coming of age moment. That's right, Bones. I want to know when you beat up a bully. Come on, Sebastian. Tell me when you saved the kitten. Come on, boys. Tell me when you did it both in one day. Why do I do this? Oh, for multiple reasons. The first is when you're on the phone with your $1 million contract, you might ask you a zig or zag question. Are you capable of answering a question in the moment and having some depth to it? That's number one. Number two is I can give you a really cool nickname because you probably told me an amazing story. Number three, when it's a rainy Wednesday, that's the sort of thing I can pick you up with, remind you of when you were a champion. And also, it gauges your levels on so many ways. Nice resume, schmesume, whatever. I'd rather hire a marathon runner than a college professor. One's a little bit more difficult. One uses your mind even more because it makes your body continue. Which one's stronger? Not saying there's something wrong with a college professor, but if you want to really call the shots, look what you need to do to be a marathon runner and how many of them are out there. And I can always teach you what's in the classroom. Want to know another thing?
Yeah.
I would rather hire somebody that's green and wet behind the ears, that has no bad habits. I can teach you a CRM, a Plantronic headset, and a read a script. That's one day. But you don't have bad habits. I can mold you like a squire to a knight. And then these kids are like, it's my first job. Even better. It's like sushi on delivery day. It's fresh and you get the first cut. It's like skiing on powder. My industry is not that complex. What's complex is an overzealous supervisor with coffee breath screaming at you, or not training you properly, or not giving you the proper resources, the rhetoric, the rebuttals, the script, the list, in order for an agent to be successful. So then what happens? The morale gets lower. People get frustrated. You need to add to it. That's why when I speak with my clients, as much as I'd like to earn their business, it's really about you being prepared and qualified, because take your account doesn't mean the agents will. So these are the sort of things that we need to be very forthright in the beginning. It's not a devil's advocate, but you need to have enough gas in the car, boys, or we're not going to the beach.
Yeah.
And stop telling me that some girl named Jasmine in your office is able to do 5 an hour. Dude, you told me the talk time's 15 minutes. It doesn't match. Plus, there's no wrap-up time. And is there any sort of QA on that? And so sometimes I call them out on it because they're in my wheelhouse. They're not doing something wrong. They're just overexcited. But I have to let them know that, listen, guys, there's only so many things we can do in an hour. And let me compare with what I've done before. And maybe through separating these piles that we spoke about earlier, then we see what's the core. And then we can begin from there. And that's how I like to gauge these conversations with people. And if you're going to come with me because of offshore pricing, because I'm near shore, that's Costa Rica, right? Offshore is India and the Philippines and the Middle East, and they're exceptionally talented, and they're half my price. Unless I can do twice the amount of calls in an hour, or the metrics there that I can do 5 calls in an hour, let me know. But if not, I'd rather you gauge me on merit, not on price. Because if it's on price, that's the dollar menu. I can't compete against that. But if you're allowing me just price, not alone, but on merit, where my soft skills, which you complimented, and I appreciate that, and my company culture and my rhetoric, where instead of making 10 calls an hour, I'm making 7 calls an hour to offset that 20 freaking minutes that you're wasting because I'm speaking to you two a little bit longer and I'm converting the deals, maybe I'm better. I cut 30% of your nonsense carpet bombing compared to you and I taking times talking about West Palm Beach and pinball. Well, how come Richard's making 80 calls a day and we're making 100? Because he's speaking 12 minutes, not doing 6-minute calls. Yeah, but he's tripling the numbers. I know. So stop doing this. Have more quality.
Yeah.
And I'm not worried about AI. Sure, there's non-voice support, omni-channel, where you can put in information and fill out forms. But when you need to speak to an attorney, a doctor, a consultant, your bank, or just anybody, you're pressing 0. If you're getting my money, I want a relationship. I want to speak with somebody. Am I correct on that as well, gentlemen? I always believe, even though I might be a luxury, guys like you are willing to pay that extra dollar to speak to somebody at my call center.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's definitely like one of the things you mentioned, it seemed like, was people's capacity to learn and how that's very important. And you also mentioned being effective in what you do, because you don't want people to just go and call out anybody and just to get the results, just to put down that they called somebody. You want them to show they care and deliver on the call, get that conversion. Do those correlate to you, the capacity to learn and how effective you can be?
Do you know what a predictive dialer is?
I do not.
Okay, there's 3 types of dialing. You can manually dial. You can smart dial, like on Skype or WhatsApp or something. And then there's something that's a predictive dialer. Guys, what I usually ask on a 5-minute talk time is to send me 4,000 unique numbers a month so I can flip the list legally 3 times and call this thing. So you'd have to send me about 4,000 numbers. I load it into a computer and they dial between 2 and 6 lines at one time, depending on the talk time, drop calls and things like that. But how about this? You've seen batting cages before, haven't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. Well, all I know is this: the moment that you put ready status, another call comes in. So, I mean, you're literally never misdialing. There's not that sort of fatigue unless you're not mentally and physically up to it.
Mhm.
But the sort of work that is produced when you have 2 to 6 lines going at one time, just to constantly give you the bingo ball when somebody picks up, where it's not an answering machine or a fax machine or a dead number. Could you imagine that? It's almost like a drill, or those machines that are taking out the dirt compared to us manually doing it. It's incredible. I can almost guarantee, when I ask my clients, are they manually dialing? How many numbers do they have calls? Oh man, if you're letting me use a dialer, if I'm speaking to 4 times the amount of people a day, if not more, the odds are in your favor. Now, talking about the soft skills, that's just balance. They can carpet bomb, read the script, do their metrics, get their money, and the company's happy. I'm talking about being an ace, a real ace. I'm really talking about trying. But what happens if you try really hard, Richard, and they still hang up on you? That's a great question, boys. Glad I said it. I believe in romantic deaths. Yeah. Regardless of anything, of nothing, the first 30-second of your 100 phone calls will be you. You're going to do a company name spike. We have a buffer boomerang technique where I readjust the tone. I will name drop you, let you know it's a great question, repeat the question and send it back positive so I can teach you how to readjust the tone. I'll do the positive escalation verbally when you transfer me and give me the pass to pitch. Or if you don't, at least I will let you know your name while the plane is going down. Thank you so much for your time. It's a romantic death. It's a full tarot card. You jump clouds. Why? So you can keep your rhythm. You keep your rhythm. Keep your rhythm. It's not a 10-minute call. It's a perfect name spike, buffer boomerang, positive escalation. Beautiful, Dan. But the funny thing is that it gets reduced and the mass moves. And don't be surprised that the gatekeeper is not your greatest ally. And so I have to explain to people that it's not like in your office where people hate going there, or you've tried it before for just a week. No, there is something called rhetoric. There is an art of speech. And if you enjoy this delivery, your job goes faster. You get much more out of it. You become more marketable. But damn, you got to do it call by call, person by person. It's not for the faint of heart, but if you train yourself in doing this, you'll be the most charming individual that mastered the art of the introduction. Because if you can anchor with someone, then you can do it, because the rest of the call doesn't exist if you do not anchor. And
Yeah.
you're only using your anonymity when you're doing the company name spike. You're not anonymous for the phone call. But my first impression for you is saying, hey, the Methods Podcast, how you doing today? Come on, man. You know, at least I bought 10 seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah. Compared to, oh, we're good, thanks. Oh, may I speak to or Sebastian there? I mean, come on. You don't do things like that.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. We really do appreciate all of your time and all the things we talked about.
Cool.
We are extremely excited to, take this information in and process it. We is there anything else you wanted to share? Any final words?
Yeah, anything you would like to
Absolutely.
say to our audience or anything like that?
I do. I most certainly do. I think your audience shouldn't be so hard on themselves.
Yeah.
Things take time. And so I think that you should give yourself first downs over touchdowns, because you just get 10 first downs. It's still a touchdown. You just got to grind it. And you'll
Yeah.
get long runs every now and again. But really, it's about that persistence, endurance. There's a lot of naysayers and great believers out there, and these are the individuals that just don't know this mission that you're on. Now, be responsible with your family, your children, and your finances, but in my opinion, 80 hours is full-time work. So I don't have to work 40 hours. I can retire as a young man. And so if you're capable of handling a full-time job, but putting that extra load on you, when the time does come for that contract and for that responsibility, you're prepared for it. And so these are the sort of things, these are the game plans that you do prior to your success. So you're used to it. It's not pretending, and it's not fake it till you make it. You are you, but it just so happens you're at that stage. And do you know how proud I was of that one seat for 50 hours, February 6th of 2008? I don't do 1 week campaigns now, but when my client, my first client, made a deposit and had enough faith in my brand new company to test me, which I respected, but for a week, are you kidding? Even if it ended then, and I never got a single account after that, do you know how good I'd feel for the rest of my life that I literally created something from nothing? It's like the people that rub two sticks together. When they hit that fire, you know how hard they got to work for that?
Yeah.
But they created fire from sticks, which I created something from SEO, a website, my rhetoric, my composure, my demeanor. I didn't create the sticks. I used the medium of the sticks and the motion and the patience to start my spark, which then turned into the fire.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's it. That's my advice for you and your, oh, and also if they ever get a chance to buy a plane ticket, they should come visit me in Costa Rica. We're north of Panama, south of Nicaragua. We're the only democratic society in Central America. We have no standing army. So they put all of their money back into education. We boast a 95% literacy rate. I mentioned Amazon, HP, Intel, Oracle, the best infrastructure. We're known for medical and ecotourism. And boys, I can't thank you enough. I had an awesome time today.
Yeah.
So did we. I promise you, so did we.
Thank you so much, Mr. Bellington. We really appreciate it. And we
Call me Richard. Mr. Blank's too formal. You guys are my boys.
Thank you.
You'll be like, yo, Rich, what's going on? If you say Mr. Blank, I'm not looking over at you. You're not talking to me.
Yeah.
Mr. Pinball, right?
Yeah. Mr. Pinball.
That's the name. Now you got
Yeah.
my yo. If you call me up and call me Mr. Pinball, pretty much my credit card's at the ready. Whatever you're buying, I'm selling. I'm buying. Yeah.
Yeah.
But
We'll
you
talk
cracked
to
a code right there, as jokingly as Mr. Pinball was. If you do that with people, not jokingly, but you find that one thing and you throw it in at the right time, ooh, they'll choose your contract over the other 99 that are calling. They can't wait to hang out with you. And they go, you know what? Everyone keeps calling me and they're all this and that. You're the first person that ever said this to me. Try to get that quote from these potentials. You're the first that ever did this. Then you know you're on the right track. That's my suggestion and your checkpoints for your audience.
All right, sounds good. I'm just glad I got it right.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank
Yeah.
you.
You're welcome.
Great.
And yeah, that was the Methods podcast. Thank you everybody for tuning in and listening. We really do appreciate it. Please look forward to our next episode, and yeah, you'll hear from us soon.